The Smithsonian Institution did not just hide human history. They dumped the physical evidence of an entire giant race into the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. On a moonless night in the year 1900, 20 massive industrial barges quietly slipped away from the New York harbor, heading straight toward the deep, crushing waters of the Atlantic Ocean. On board these massive steel vessels were over 40,000 heavy wooden crates, tightly bolted with iron screws, sealed with thick black wax, and stamped with the official insignia of the Smithsonian Institution, the most prestigious scientific authority in the United States. I never intended to investigate the shipping manifests of these 1900 barges. I was simply analyzing old administrative files and forgotten municipal excavation records, trying to trace why the majestic stone buildings of our major cities feature doorways and ceilings that seem impossibly large for the people who supposedly built them. But when I stumbled upon the suppressed, highly classified transportation logs of that chilly autumn night, the true, terrifying scale of a global historical erasure was laid bare. Official records claim that these 40,000 crates contain nothing more than duplicate museum samples, damaged rock specimens, and worthless plaster casts. They tell us it was merely a routine cleanup of overcrowded storage basements to save space. But when you cross-reference the exact dates of these massive shipments with the timeline of major excavations and the sudden, aggressive censorship of local newspapers, a much darker, highly calculated pattern emerges. They were not clearing out useless clutter to save space. They were systematically, cold-bloodedly, and permanently purging the physical evidence of an entire lost civilization from the face of the earth. If you dig into the decaying archives of local American newspapers from the early 1800s to the early 1900s, you will uncover front-page headlines that completely contradict everything you were taught in school. Before the historical narrative was tightly regulated by a few powerful, elite-funded organizations, local journalists routinely reported the discovery of anomalous, massive human skeletons. These were not slightly tall men or physiological anomalies. These were beautifully preserved, anatomically complete skeletal remains measuring 7, 10, and even 12 feet in length, unearthed from ancient earthworks and giant burial mounds, stretching from Ohio all the way to Nevada. The local townspeople did not view these as hoaxes. They documented them with precise measurements, witnessed them by local sheriffs, and published the findings in respected local papers. But the most terrifying discovery occurred in the summer of 1907, deep beneath a quiet, unsuspecting American railway town. Laborers blasting through a solid, ancient rock wall to expand a railway line unexpectedly broke into a vast, sealed, and impossibly smooth subterranean stone chamber. Inside, resting on the cold, ancient stone floor, they uncovered a humanoid skull so incredibly colossal, so massive that it measured nearly 30 feet in circumference. Terrified, the railway workers immediately halted their machinery. Local journalists rushed to the scene with heavy cameras, and several flash photographs were taken under the dim light of lanterns. It was the archaeological discovery of a lifetime undeniable, physical proof that a race of colossal giants once walked the earth, built advanced underground structures, and lived alongside humanity. But the containment protocol was activated. Within 48 hours of the local news broadcast, private steam trains carrying government-funded researchers, armed federal marshals, and representatives from the Smithsonian Institution arrived in the town. The entire excavation site was instantly cordoned off. The local workers were silenced under strict non-disclosure agreements and paid off with large sums of cash. The colossal skull, along with hundreds of surrounding metallic artifacts, strange copper gears, and ancient tablets, was meticulously packed into heavy, unmarked wooden crates, loaded onto private train cars, and transported away into the dead of night. After that, there was only absolute, deafening silence. The giant skull was never displayed, never documented in scientific journals, and any independent researcher who dared to inquire was told by the institution that the entire event was merely a local newspaper hoax designed to sell copies. This cover-up was not a single, isolated incident. It was merely one piece of a nationwide confiscation campaign that had been running for decades. Whenever a farmer ploughing his field struck a massive 6-foot-long human femur bone, or miners blew open a cavern filled with oversized iron swords and copper shields, the men in dark suits representing the institution were always the first to arrive. They positioned themselves as the ultimate guardians of human history, claiming they were taking the artifacts to be preserved in Washington, D.C. for the benefit of science. But they were not gathering evidence to study it. They were gathering evidence to bury it forever in deep, restricted subterranean vaults, or, as we saw in 1900, to dump it directly into the crushing, pitch-black abyss of the ocean where no human could ever retrieve it. Why would a highly respected scientific organization spend millions of dollars, mobilize armed agents, and coordinate with the federal government to actively hide the greatest archaeological discoveries in human history? Because admitting the existence of giants would completely shatter the carefully constructed, linear narrative of human evolution. We are taught from childhood by the educational system that humanity is constantly moving forward on a straight line of progress, starting as primitive, cave-dwelling apes, evolving into simple agriculturalists, and finally culminating in our modern, advanced industrial society. This artificial timeline is not designed for scientific truth. It is designed to justify the current ruling class, the centralized banking cartels, and the industrial systems of control they have put in place. But if the public knew that thousands of years ago, a much grander, more technologically advanced, and physically superior race of giants existed, built a global civilization, it would mean we are not an evolving species at all. It would mean we are merely a suppressed, degraded, and physically shrunken remnant of a glorious past. It would finally explain the profound architectural anomalies that surround us in every major city on the planet. It would mean the magnificent, neoclassical stone buildings, the giant 30-foot-high doors, and the towering ceilings in our old public buildings were not built for aesthetic reasons by primitive pioneers using horse-drawn buggies. They were built for the colossal people who originally inhabited them. The financial elite of the early 20th century were engineering a complete, cold-blooded societal reset. They had to physically remove the evidence of the old realm. Just as they took 150,000 children on the orphan trains, erased their birth certificates, and severed their family lines to wipe their memories, they had to completely erase the physical footprint of the old world. You cannot convince a new generation of factory workers that they are the absolute pinnacle of human achievement if the 12-foot skeleton of their predecessor is sitting in a glass display case in the local museum. So the evidence was gathered up, classified, locked in deep subterranean vaults, or dumped into the sea. Today, we blindly accept the fabricated history handed down to us by the very institutions that hid the truth. We walk through ancient, massive doorways, look up at impossible stone architecture, and never question who actually laid the foundation. The next time you visit a grand museum, looking at carefully curated exhibits of primitive stone tools, ask yourself a terrifying question. What is sitting in the dark, restricted basements, locked away in wooden crates that have not been opened in over a century? They erased the giants so you would forget how incredibly small they have made you. Secure this dark file deep within your personal archive. Start questioning every single historical fact you have ever been taught. Leave a comment below if you have ever felt this unexplainable disconnect from the modern world. Save this video and pass the frequency of this truth to those who are still awake enough to listen before the algorithm detects these words and scrubs it from the platform forever.